So imagine this. It's the 22nd of September 2022. You're walking with your son to the Ottawa Humane Society with two cat carriers, despite the both of you being severely allergic to cats. Your daughter tragically passed away 3 weeks ago at the age of 36, and you are here to collect the cats she left behind, and get them ready for collection by one of her friends in the US. After 3 weeks, you are finally able to honour your late daughter's final wishes. However, little did you know the debacle that would unfold within the coming hour. There are many people involved in this story. Kendra, a dear friend of mine who sadly passed away at the beginning of last month. Her partner Dale, her mother Hazel, her brother Sockbat, her half-brother Corey, and finally two of her many friends who lived abroad, Charlie and Cryptic. Charlie agreed months prior to take ownership of her two cats if anything were to happen to her. Dale also promised this would happen. Kendra lived in Ottawa, Canada, and Charlie lives in the US state of Michigan. As you can imagine, getting two cats across the border right after a loved one passed away in a limited amount of time is already a logistical challenge, but certain shady actions made by the Ottawa Humane Society, who took custody of the cats immediately after Kendra's passing, have made this challenge into a nightmare for those involved. This video seeks to compile the accounts given by people involved, as well as adding in additional information where required. After Kendra's body was found in her apartment, the cats were taken to the Humane Society by police, despite protests from Hazel. Off to a good start. 2 weeks later, Dale called the Humane Society. He was told the cats were under medical hold for reasons including, but not limited to, rabies vaccinations and getting them fixed. Keep these two details in mind as they'll be important later. Charlie was also told over the phone mere hours later that time was running out for them to take the cats before they were put up for public adoption. Soon enough, the cats were out of medical hold and had to be collected. A payment of $566 was made, and on the 22nd of September, Kendra's mother and brother went off to collect the cats from the Ottawa Humane Society and send them off to the PetSmart Pet Hotel, where they were only supposed to stay for 2 nights. The following are the two accounts written the day after the events took place, starting with Hazel's Google document, with Sockbat's Twitter thread being read out directly afterwards.
The Saga of the Cats, Infinity War Edition. My son and I went to the Humane Society on Thursday morning, cat carriers in hand, ready to transport Mr. Wilson and Ozzy to the PetSmart Pet Hotel so they could spend 3 days there, awaiting their new American owner to come and get them. A happy ending was on the horizon. They brought us the cats and gave us 2 big medical charts showing that the cats had been vaccinated. I mean, it had all these fancy terms on it in the vaccination section, so off we went, hopeful and naive, to PetSmart, after the Americans paid hundreds of dollars to get them out of one place into another. I asked the question directly, do the cats have all their vaccinations so we can board them at PetSmart? I was told, yes. We get to PetSmart. They look over the paperwork and see that there is no record of them being given a rabies vaccination. And it turns out that there is a federal law on the books that clearly states that PetSmart cannot take the cats in their hotel without that. It's a federal law. Thus, I know that the Humane Society, who deals only in pets, would know this. We had nowhere to put the cats now. I am severely allergic to cats, and so is my son. To top it off, Ozzy figured out how to get out of the carrier, and I had him on my lap until we could get to the parking lot and put him back in and secure it better. Hey, I love the cat, but by now I'm starting to wheeze. Back we go to the Humane Society, where they say they have no room to take the cats, even though we were just there an hour ago. No kidding. I asked again about the vaccines, and this time they told me they had not given a rabies vaccine, and we should get the vet records. My daughter is dead, I say a little sarcastically. Shall I have a seance in the middle of your lobby? Now, friends, before you preach to me, I do not hold seances. I was just trying to make a point. They were blinking and staring at me as if I was crazy and a liar about the allergies. I said, if I take these cats to my home, I will be in the hospital or dead by tomorrow morning. I already was code blue before, and very nearly died from a cat. I'm not going to do that again. They still glare at me as if I'm a liar. I wonder if these folks feel a sudden urge to give nut allergy kids peanut butter sandwiches. Finally, this tall, balding dude comes out. I guess he's management or something, and starts giving us more attitude. And my son blew a fuse. He had to work at 4 and had driven 80 kilometers into the city to do this. And now we couldn't do it. The management guy says he will take the cats if we surrender them and then adopt them out. But not just hold them. So they magically have room to do that, I say. Where do I sign? I have no options at this point, and after the American new owner had already paid $566 to get them out of the shelter with only some vaccinations and not even rabies done, they say they won't take them unless we pay $40 surrender fee. No kidding. So my son pretty much throws $40 at them. I'm crying now because I have been treated like I'm a criminal for not wanting to die from cat dander. They look at us like we were scum. So now, if the new owner wants to adopt the cats, he will have to wait until they fix and clear them for adoption, and then pay another $500 to get them. I used to support the Humane Society, but after what I saw today, I'm doubting their integrity and their worthiness as a charity. I can forgive what they did to me and to my son and to my daughter posthumously, but I don't think I will give them a red cent at charity events. I will give to every rescue in the city, but not them. This smells like a racket to me. It was a blatant shakedown just to get more money. I have never been so disrespected and mistreated by an organization before. So, the Humane Society, after all that, got over $600 from all of us. They've still got the cats, and if we want them adopted by the person who wanted them in the first place, they will shake us down for $500 more. Is it a charity or an episode of The Sopranos? I can't tell anymore. The end. I came home after that and probably had one of the worst seizures that I have had in years. It euchred my whole workday, and I had to lie down until the seizure waves passed me by, which is why I'm suddenly awake 2:30 a.m. This is the gift that keeps on giving. It might be over, it might not.
Never in my life have I encountered more incompetent or possibly dishonest people than I did at the Ottawa Humane Society yesterday afternoon. If anyone is considering donating to this organization, I'd urge you to reconsider. 3 weeks ago, my sister passed away from health conditions related to her type 1 diabetes. She left behind 2 cats that were brought to the Ottawa Humane Society by the police who discovered her body. A friend of hers from Michigan was going to come up on Saturday to adopt them. The Humane Society was not willing to hold them for that long, so a reservation at a pet hotel at PetSmart was made. When I showed up at the Humane Society with my mother to pick up the cats, another friend of my sister's from the internet, known as Cryptic, paid $655 so we could adopt the cats. My mother asked the woman if they had all of their shots, and the woman said yes. My mother explained to her that we were taking them to a pet motel or where proof of vaccination is required. She handed my mother the papers and told her that all the information on them would be sufficient. So we were off to PetSmart, where we would learn that the vaccinations they received did not include the vaccine for rabies. The PetSmart employee we dealt with was very kind and helpful and did everything he could to try to get our animals checked in. He even called the Humane Society multiple times, but there was no answer. He had no choice but to turn us away. We returned to the Humane Society, and the same woman who an hour prior had told my mother that cats had all of their shots went, "Oh yeah, they didn't get their rabies shots." Another employee asked if we could just find another pet hotel, and I explained, "I have to work at 4, and I don't have the time." My mother then explained to this man that both my mother and I were allergic to cats and could not bring them home with us. We were just there an hour ago, and wouldn't have taken the cats in the first place if we had known that the vaccination records were given did not include the rabies vaccine. We should have been able to just return the cats and have Cryptic's $655 refunded. We would learn that not only were they not going to refund the $655, but that it was going to cost another $40 for them to take the cats back.
One thing to add here is the cats weren't fixed either, despite the Humane Society saying over the phone to Dale that they would have them fixed. Corey wrote a review on the Humane Society's Google Maps page. This review and similar reviews posted by others would be hidden. However, a copy of the review was posted on their Facebook page the following day, on the 24th of September.
Absolutely disgusted with this Humane Society. My career involves working with not-for-profits including Humane Societies all across Ontario, and you can bet that in any client meetings I will be mentioning this story, such gross negligence. Anyway, on to the story. My sister sadly passed away last week, and my stepmother and brother, who are both deathly allergic to cats, had to arrange for a place for her cats to go. The police took them to the Humane Society. The employees at the Humane Society said they would need their shots and they could only keep them for a couple of days. Which was fine, that made sense. So then, my family paid $500 plus to get all their shots that the Humane Society said needed to get done. My mother-in-law communicated that we were planning to take the cats to a PetSmart hotel since that would be better for them and would help them keep them from making this Humane Society too full. So we arranged a reservation with the PetSmart hotel, and my stepmother and brother went to go pick up the cats from the Humane Society. They picked up some pet carriers as well so that we could transport them easier. Anyway, they get there and my mother-in-law asks the person in charge point blank, "Do they have all the shots they need to go to PetSmart?" And my stepmother was told, yes. This was a lie. Little did she know that this Humane Society had left out that those two cats were given every shot but a rabies shot, which by law, federally, is the one thing a business like PetSmart would need to have proof of to take the cats in. So, after driving across Ottawa to PetSmart, the PetSmart employee told my stepmother and brother that unfortunately because they didn't get their rabies shots, that PetSmart couldn't take them. So, left with no other choice, and breathing heavily from being in the car with cats she was allergic to, she and my brother returned to this Humane Society, where they were told that the Humane Society was now too full, keep in mind only an hour had passed since they were last there, and they couldn't take the cats back unless they were surrendered. So, even though it broke her emotionally, my stepmother had no choice than to surrender her deceased daughter's cats. Also, for some reason, you kept the pet carriers she had just bought as well. Not nice. Now, I'm not stupid. I know this business world. I am well aware that this Humane Society chose not to do the rabies shot, knowing full well that without this shot, these cats would need to come back since my stepmother was allergic, which means they would inevitably have to be surrendered. All this so the Humane Society could now charge an extra adoption fee to the person driving up from the US to get them. This is gross, and frankly, I would never support this Humane Society. And any time I'm in a meeting with a higher-up at any Humane Society across Ontario, I will be mentioning this story, because I believe organisations should not be able to just get away with stuff like this. I'm sorry, I know that not every worker there is like this. I know, all it takes is a few bad apples, but these are your employees that you are responsible for as a brand and organisation. I know my mother-in-law plans to go to social media and the paper about this. I don't plan to do that. I just wanted to make it known in a public forum how poorly you handled this situation and how much you have emotionally hurt my family. And since I know there are a fair amount of organisations that mandate their higher-ups to read and respond to these comments, I figure maybe this will at least reach somebody there who will make sure this sort of thing never happens again to anybody else. Teach your lower management better.
This review got a brief response from the Humane Society saying the following.
We're sorry you were not satisfied with the service we provided. As you know, the cats were in our care for 3 weeks whilst we worked with your family to remove barriers to having them claimed. This includes waiving many of the fees that were incurred in providing for their care. While at no point did we indicate that a rabies vaccine had been provided, we apologise for any misunderstanding. Should you wish to discuss this further, please do not hesitate to reach out to our supervisor at cssupervisor@ottawahumane.ca.
Let's break that down. As you know, the cats were in our care for 3 weeks while we worked with your family to remove barriers to having them claimed. This includes waiving many of the fees that we incurred in providing for their care. The first part reads to me as, "Look, see, we're not bad. We did what we were supposed to do," as if that's supposed to absolve them of any legitimate criticism. The second part about fees doesn't matter, as this isn't an issue about money. Many of the people involved are willing to throw as much money as possible to honour the wishes of someone they care deeply about. This is an issue about the principle and the fact that Humane Society made a logistical challenge a nightmare. Well, at no point did we indicate that the rabies shots have been given. We apologise for the misunderstanding. Really?
I asked the question directly. Do the cats have all their vaccinations so we can board them at PetSmart? I was told yes.
My mother asked the woman if they had all of their shots, and the woman said yes.
Sure, the employee did not directly say, yes, they had their rabies shots. However, what they did say in response to the question, do the cats have all their vaccinations so they can be boarded at PetSmart, was yes. Not only should the employee have just known they needed their rabies shots as they work in the industry, and this isn't some obscure unheard of requirement for pet hotels, the fact they did say something without knowing it for a fact is unacceptable, and if they said it knowing it wasn't true, that's even worse. Speaking of things getting worse, not only did you indirectly state this to the family, you did say they were getting their rabies shots while they were under medical hold. 2 weeks later, her partner Dale was called by the Humane Society. He was told the cats were on medical hold for reasons including, but not limited to, rabies vaccinations and getting them fixed. So yeah, that's just flat out wrong. Finally, this response fails to address a lot of the other smaller issues, such as the unprofessional employee conduct, Dale being told part of the reason the cats were on medical hold was so they could be fixed when they weren't, the family being told there was no space for the cats a mere hour after they were picked up, unless they were surrendered without elaborating on it, and taking the cat carriers that weren't theirs. Sadly, such a brief response that addresses nothing is to be expected. Employees admitting to anything could become a major liability to the organisation. In the following weeks, both Cryptic and Dale would have multiple phone calls and email exchanges with the Humane Society to try and resolve the situation to no avail. One of the emails sent by Dale can be seen on screen now. This unfortunately went nowhere. Here are some of the cliff notes provided by Dale. It essentially boils down to, since they're under no obligation to help, they won't. After a lot of song and dance about holding them for free and waiving a bunch of their fees, the supervisors told me they were never going to just do medical services for free, exact quote, because they're a non-for-profit that is entirely funded by donations, also an exact quote, and since they were surrendered to the Humane Society, they were now going to have their procedures to adopt out. So what's happening now? When the cats were surrendered, any claim on them by Dale and Kendra's family was immediately made void. The cats are now back under medical hold before they are put up for public adoption. The plan is to get someone else we know who either lives in Canada or is able to enter Canada and adopt the cats. How we get the cats over to Charlie entirely depends on who is able to adopt them. Not all hope is lost. However, I don't want this to get quietly sorted out with no backlash or negative press laid at the Humane Society. At best, there is an unforgivable level of incompetence here, and at worst, employees outright lied to nickel and dime the family and friends of people who just lost a loved one. What I request of all of you is to spread the word. Share this video, Sockbat's Twitter thread, Hazel's Google document, and Corey's Facebook review to anyone and everyone, friends, family, and your social media. Make this debacle well known. Relevant links are in the description and pinned comment, as well as a Google Drive folder with a copy of this video and the individual recordings of the account available for download. I encourage people to clip or mirror this video and the recordings if they so desire. Any support in this situation is greatly appreciated by me and her other friends and family. Thank you.